What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. If it's your first time coming to hang out today, let me just run down the basics of what's going to go on so we can all be on the same page. The name Buds, Bros, and Superheroes kind of acts as a section holder for the conversations that we're going to be having today. So in the Bud section, it's for travelers of the green, fans of the devil's lettuce, potheads, weed smokers, whatever you want to call it. We're going to be talking about it today. My guest is another certified PA medical marijuana patient and coworker of mine in the Bros section. As new coworkers, we don't really know each other, so we're going to get to know each other just a little bit more, talk about your life growing up, a little bit nerdy stuff that you liked, and a little bit nerdy stuff that I liked, because, I'm going to stay on brand a little bit, because the Superheroes section might be another grabs, guys. That's right, we're going for another one. So, if you like Blunt Man and Chronic, the fictional superheroes, this show's all about you as we deep dive into Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Joining me today, we're going to welcome for the first time. It's the first time in a long time. It's been a while since we had a first-time guest, but that's breaking today as we welcome Andrew to the show. Please, sir, say hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, dude, very excited to have you. Thank you. Honestly, really, thank you so much for agreeing to do this.
Super psyched to be here. It's my first podcast. I'm excited.
I've only known you for a few weeks. I'm like, do you want to come to my house and talk to me on a microphone? And you're just like, yeah. And I'm like, all right, thanks, bro. So I really do mean it when I'm like, thanks for trusting me and thanks for coming over and hanging out.
I was all about it. I like the podcast, listen to the episodes. It's cool, man.
Thank you.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you very much, man. Super duper appreciated. Happy to have everybody on the other side of the mic, too, listening in. That's going to start the show proper as we head into the Bud section. Getting to know you a little bit more, Andrew, I want to talk about as you're going through the PA medical marijuana process and, becoming a bud tender and just a little bit of traveling the green, sir. Tell me how you have traveled.
So I'm pretty new to the program. Only got my card probably a week or two after starting at the job. I've only been there probably 6 months, maybe? Probably a little less. But I was definitely a street kind of guy for a while, but it feels amazing to be able to get all the stuff that I need and all the stuff that I want, and for stuff to actually have a name, because a lot of the times when you get on the street, it does not have a name. So yeah, it's been amazing.
Or if it is a name, you're just like, come on, bro. Is it really that name?
Yeah, right.
Because there's sometimes you pick up and you're just like, hey, this kind of looks like last time, but you said this was something different. And if you actually go and look on the internet, that's not what that looks like.
Yep. There's a lot of trust involved. And, I've just accepted a lot of things that I didn't like or that wasn't good for me. And now I can get stuff exactly what I need and what helps me. So it's been amazing. And working with you and with the other peeps at the dispensary, it's been really sweet.
Super really duper great crew.
Yeah, everybody's so nice. Everybody's super sweet.
And for the most part, so are our patients. They're really super nice and super sweet.
Absolutely. A lot of good people coming in there. A lot of people that come every day that are super nice, and it makes the job a lot easier. For sure.
Oh, that's definitely been my favorite part. So before this, I worked at a place where in a team, maybe there was about 12 of us. And we had to work with audio and visual, both in editing and in watching sometimes. So you can't do that and conversate. Is that a word? Converse? That's right. A better one. So not only that, then we went to working from home. Mm-hmm. So for I don't know, a year and a half, I've just been sitting somewhere. And now to have people all around me and stuff, it's kind of been a big change, but a really nice one, because I'm just everybody here is so nice.
Yeah. I was the same way. I worked from home, customer service for a while. And working at home and not being around people is definitely bring you down a little bit, but being around a lot of good people, especially everybody at the dispensary, I don't know, it feels good. It feels really good.
I was going to say that as well, as you kind of alluded to or talked about earlier in defense, that you're getting your medicine, you're getting what you need, and you know what you're getting and how good that feels for you. How great does that feel, giving that to other people as well now?
It feels really good. And for people to come in the next day and be like, oh, the strain that you got me was so good, or let me get that again. And that feels really good that somebody came in and they were looking for something specific, something to help them in a certain way. And I found the right strain for them. It's very fulfilling, and it feels amazing. Yeah.
That happened with me today. We had something on sale and somebody asked about something else, like, hey, what do you have in this? And I said, oh, why don't you try this sale item? And they kind of side-eyed me. And it's funny, on this show, we actually talked about way back in the day of like some people at other places will quote unquote push the fish is what I called it. You know, if you've worked in the restaurant industry, like your boss would be like, push the fish. It's about to turn. You know, we need to get it out before we throw it out.
Yeah.
So sometimes I feel like we've got that around other places, just like, oh, this guy said it was the bomb, and then you open and you're like, he did? Interesting. Yeah. Okay. And I think he kind of gave me that look. Mm-hmm. But then he came in today, he's like, that was actually really fire. I was like, I thought it was for the price, and like it felt exactly like you said. Like I helped a little bit and it felt good. And
it's totally fair to be honest with people. If something that you know is not going to be good for them, or that you've tried that's not good, that's fair to be like, maybe you should get something else. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to recommend it, and you're going to see them again, and they're not going to trust your opinion. And then you're building a relationship that you don't want. You know what I'm saying?
Brilliant. Yeah, no, I really do. I really like that perspective of building the trust and building it, because you're right. We do see certain people darn near close to every day where it's just like, hey, blank, how you doing this morning? And they're like, good, blank, how are you? And I'm just like, oh, I'm doing great. Thanks. Exactly. Shit like that.
Yeah.
I like that kind of fulfillment now. I get that a little bit more every day. And as I build my confidence, and just like when they're like, do you have this? I'm like, yes. Because that was the worst starting,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the first couple days working there, getting to know all the products, I mean, it was pretty overwhelming. You go in the back and there's this room full of like probably hundreds and hundreds of different products that at first, if you're not too familiar with all of them, it's kind of overwhelming. But after a couple of weeks, I felt like I knew just from like going through it. I mean, you're fulfilling orders, like you're going through it, you see different things. People are picking up different things. And like now I feel like I have a pretty good grasp on the menu, or like what we have in general,
I know that my biggest area that I'm going to try to get better in is concentrates. Because for myself, I'm a quote unquote flour guy. I like the flour the most. I have a shit ton of flour in my house right now. I like sampling that, but concentrates, I think what I want to do, and maybe we can talk about it right here on the show. You can recommend it, because we were talking about it the other day, of taking concentrates, but not in a banger situation, of having a device. So not only will you actually drop some knowledge on me, sir, but hopefully anybody listening who's like, I want to take concentrates, but a banger, the propane, the torch looking shit, that's a little too much. I want to go for a device. So please.
Yeah. I mean, so I was kind of the same way. Getting into the program, I only really picked up flour. I would get some cartridges that were good. But I wanted to get into concentrates, not only to save money. I want to know about concentrates enough to be able to sell them, to my patients. I want to be able to tell them what's good, what I've tried. I want to enjoy the product as well. So when I first got into them, I picked up, it's called a Terp pen. I got the Terp pen XL. It's kind of a pen that you can use it like kind of like an electric nectar collector. You can literally just dip it into your stash and take pulls through that. You can also just take a glob and put it up to the coil at the end. You can also take the mouthpiece. It's a 14 millimeter end, so you can attach it if you had like a water pipe. Instead of using a banger, you can actually do dabs through that. And it also has like a little container at the bottom that you can store your concentrates, and that's pretty sweet. Or you can just load it in and cold start it and save it for later and kind of take it on the go. Yeah, it's pretty sweet. I would recommend that if you're looking to kind of have like that dab experience without getting the banger and getting the torch, and that can be a little intimidating.
It can also be, we've said it on the show too, it could be a little nefarious looking, if somebody walked in without knowing and you've got a torch on a glass, they're just like, what you doing there, pal? And you're just like, little chemistry.
Yeah, and the cleanup is,
creme brulee.
You want to keep it clean. So that process can be a little bit with the Terp pen or any of those like coil type vaporizers. I mean, there's some cleanup involved, but most of it is pretty much just like day to day. You want to clean it maybe every couple days, but it's definitely a lot easier to use and definitely more convenient than having a whole banger water pipe situation for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely most interested in being able to fit that in there, to be honest.
Yeah.
As I look at my water pipe.
Yeah. definitely. If that's a 14 millimeter, I'm sure.
What's your favorite type past this? So you can have sugars, you can have butters, you can have shatter. What else am I missing?
Yeah, you got shatter, butter. I mean, you can mess with sands as well. They have different sauces, diamond sauces.
That was happening. Yeah, what is a sauce, please?
I guess the sauce is more of like a liquidy concentrate. Not crazy knowledgeable about exactly the process of getting the sauce, but I've known that it's, a lot more terpy, definitely a lot more terpenes in the live sauces. And I know sauces sometimes can have diamonds in them, which I think are just concentrated THC, would possibly.
I'm going to have to look into that.
Yeah, absolutely. But my favorite, I would probably go with the butter or like a batter. I feel like they're kind of easy to use for sure. I like the taste of them. I had some of Cresco's live butters. I thought they're amazing. Yeah, I don't know. I like those. I've also had a sauce before. I thought they were pretty nice. And like I said, diamonds can be in the sauce. And I didn't get a diamonds in sauce, but I got a sauce and ended up having diamonds. And I wasn't sure about diamonds at that point. And when I was looking in the sauce, I was like, what are these? It looked like glass. And I was scared that maybe the jar shattered in there. And I started breaking them. And I was like, you know what? Let me try. I'll take a dab of one. And it ended up, I was like, oh, this is a diamond. You know what I mean? So like learning that felt super important, especially working at a dispensary and, helped me recommend stuff, for sure.
That's awesome. I'm going to get more into that. I have been looking a lot into carts. I like the carts. I like that we brought up liquid live resins because those are the ones that I personally like to go for instead of like BHOs or some sort of other things like that, just because I found that the flavor is just so much better. It's like craziness.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of times the terps are a lot heavier on the liquid live resins. And you really get that flavor from the actual flower, the true flavor of that strain for sure.
I think I brought it up with Brother Johnny in the last episode, but just in case anybody forgot, the terpenes are organic compounds found in essential oils of the plants that naturally exist across different strains of medical marijuana. The unique collection of terpenes give each strain its distinct flavor in combination with a cannabinoid profile, and it determines the special effects that you'll feel. This has been absolutely my favorite part about learning all this is just looking and staring at jars of just like, what is this? What is that?
Mine too. I spend a lot of time looking at jars, a lot of time looking at packaging, trying to find the perfect terp combination and ones that I like, and ones that I could recommend to people, how they would feel. Yeah, I love learning about terps. What is your favorite terp?
I think it's limonene? Limonene.
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 Yeah, that's my favorite terpene too.
Nice.
I love limonene. Everything I've had that's been heavy in limonene has always been great. And I feel like it's always helped me and boosted my mood, really taken the edge off and just uplifted me. Yeah, I love limonene too.
Usually we enter this section with a question, but now we're going to close out this section with a question, which is kind of funny, of what we've been smoking on. I'm going to have you go through it if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So right now we are smoking on the Princess Leia. It's from Terrapin. Yeah, it's my first time having this strain. It's a sativa. Looks like it's definitely dominant in the myrcene, caryophyllene, and a little bit of limonene there. Coming in at like 22% THCA. Maybe around comes down to like 19 THC. But I liked it. I thought this was really good. I always wanted to try it. I thought it looks great. What do you think?
Out of all of the ones that we had, yeah, this one is one of the ones that disappeared. So I was pretty happy that I snagged it when I snagged it. I really enjoy it too. I think it looks really good. Yeah,
it looks amazing. I had my eyes on that for a while, but I never picked it up, but I'm so glad I got to try it.
Anybody out there who might not be as appreciative of the bud section as sometimes we get in other sections, aka people here more for the nerd talk who are just like, wait, Princess Leia? Check this out. These same people also have a Rando Calrissian, a Cloud City, or is it just Cloud City?
Cloud City.
Okay, I thought there was a third word there. There was a Jawa cake.
Yep. I heard they had a new strain called Space Buns.
Oh, man.
Kind of involved. I think it's a cross of, I forget, but it involves the Princess Leia because of the buns.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're getting kind of wonky, and they do have a lot of Star Wars references, which is very cool.
It really is.
And a lot of them are really good. I've had a lot of good stuff from Terrapin. I think my favorite from them has got to be the coffee ice cream. And we had that one. It was amazing. Yeah, a lot of liming in that one, and I love it. So
yeah, they do make non-Star Wars one, guys. I'm just saying the Star Wars ones were the ones that I was just like, that's fucking funny, dude.
Yeah. Super cool. Always happy with Terrapin, for sure.
With that, guys, we are going to close out of the Bud section, and we can get into the Bro section, where we're going to learn a little bit more about each other. So this Bro section is a little bit more of a getting to know you type deal, and that's what we're going to do, not only as you being a first-time guest here on the show, but also being, a new-time friend here to me. So just, if you don't mind, a little bio, a little bit of growing up, a little bit of what you liked. I like to talk about nerdy stuff, so, not even particular too nerdy stuff, but what you found nerdy growing up. I don't know, man. Shoot the shit a little bit more loosely here than we do in other sections.
Okay. So I was born in Las Vegas. I lived there until I was about 12. Growing up, I loved skateboarding. That was a big thing for me. As soon as I could really do anything on a skateboard, I was on one. Kind of fell in love with it for a while. I still skate time and time again. Not as heavy anymore. But yeah, I love that. Through skateboarding, I guess I started messing around with like Jackass, the Wild Boys.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I love them. Their relationship with each other was always like something I wanted, and kind of helped with my friendships. And I can't remember the times that I would do, or at least try to attempt, like Jackass stunts in the backyard or something.
It's so funny that you bring that up, and I'm just going to cut you off for a second there. So my friend Roy has been on the show, and I think if it wasn't it was our second episode where, I always talk about stretching the superhero section topic, and that's when I stretched it the most. We have an entire Jackass episode where he goes into the same kind of theory of that's something I wanted. And when my mother, who's a big fan of the show, hi Mom, was listening, she goes, I don't fucking get it. She doesn't curse, but she was like, I don't get it. They threw stuff at each other. They were hurting him. Like, what do you mean? And he was just like, it's that brother. It's just funny to kind of hear you echo that a little bit.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off. Fuck yeah, dude.
No.
It's so funny. It was almost the same sentiment.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like you said, I just love that like kind of brotherly love, whether they're like hurting each other or like throwing each other, down sets of stairs or whatever they're doing. They were always laughing no matter what, it was never hard feelings. It was always a good time. I've come to love all of them, I guess. Steve-O, a huge inspiration for me. Yeah, I love that guy. Bam Margera, he's had his ups and downs, that's for sure. But, I'm following his story, following Ryan Dunn's story, rest in peace. But
yep.
Yeah, I just love those dudes, and they're all huge inspirations to me, especially Steve-O. I love Steve-O to this day. His podcast is amazing. He's the best dude. Always good vibes.
Wild Rides for anybody who wants to go out and listen to it. It is a really good podcast. We were just a little bit talking about claustrophobia in a different sense, but like, not that I would ever get it, but if he'd be like, do you want to come do my show? I'd be like, I don't know, man. It looks really tight in there. That's tight. My number one thing of. Like, not to be nervous and not to be like, don't fuck up in front of Steve-O, this man that you adore. It'd be like, I don't know. You sit awfully close to me with your socks and shoes off. I don't know if I could be that close to your feet, man.
Right. It would definitely be a nervous situation for me. It would be nerve-wracking. I would love every second of it, but it would be nerve-wracking. That's for sure.
I also think Rab himself did one for quite some time.
His own podcast.
Yeah.
I think I remember seeing that. Yeah, I don't know.
I've seen episodes with the Maderas, so like Phil and April.
Oh, okay.
He did one, I believe, with, it's blanking out of my head, Steve-O. Must have been Steve-O that were riding around.
Cool.
I learned that like he left not happy, Rab himself, and he's got a fun story. Yeah. I would, if you like them and like the podcasts and stuff, at least look into the highlights. It's a pretty good one.
Okay. Yeah, I will definitely. There's a lot of nights where I spend just looking at old videos of Jackass or like their relationships, or even like home videos of theirs, or like looking through the Brandon Novak story, and like his, him dealing with addiction. Addiction definitely has like a soft spot for me. So seeing people overcome it, like Steve-O, like Brandon Novak, getting clean, it's really inspiring, and yeah, I'll always love them. That's for sure.
Did you also like CKY then?
I love CKY.
Fuck yeah.
That's for sure. I love Viva La Bam. Viva La Bam was probably my favorite out of like those shows. Second to probably Wild Boys. I loved Wild Boys as a kid, seeing them go around the world, messing with animals. Steve-O and Chris Pontius,
Yep.
I believe, are the Wild Boys. That show was amazing. But yeah, Viva La Bam. I would try to find all their episodes online, and I would go through them, I would binge them. I loved all their relationships with each other, Bam with his parents, and, all the dudes. Yeah.
It took time for me to collect the DVDs when I was a kid. And then there was a time in my life, I don't know, so I was watching that show. It was new to me when I was in the 7th grade. So I don't fucking know what year that is, but like maybe around first year of college, I was like, I don't know. I've seen these all a bunch of times. When am I going to rewatch them? Got rid of them. 31 just the other day, and I've started to recollect them to rewatch them at will. And like that first season of Viva La Bam is fucking gold. It's really funny.
Yeah, I love it. Seeing Bam and his friends mess around, it's the best. I don't want to say I love seeing people hurt themselves, but like seeing friends have fun and like mess around with each other, and like I said, throw each other down stair sets, fucking bringing a motorcycle to wake each other up, putting a guitar amp to their head to wake them up, stuff like that. I loved as a kid. I don't know why, but yeah, it's huge inspiration for sure.
And then later on, we were talking about a little bit too, jamming. You're always kind of tapping on stuff, and we were making a sweet beat the other day. That was fun.
Oh, yeah.
And then we got onto a conversation that led to in my opinion, mind-blowing. I don't know about you. I guess somewhere statistically it had to make sense that as musicians, I was a musician back in the day. You were a musician who traveled places. I said, did you ever play New Jersey? And you're like, yeah. And I looked at you. I was like, you've played the fucking Meat Locker, haven't you? And you went, I have played the Meat Locker. Like, that was mind-blowing to me to think that we both were there at different times, and just now we're here sitting talking, like, what the fuck are the chances? But
right. Yeah.
Somewhere somebody can do the math.
For sure. Yeah. I definitely had a time. Oh, I loved music growing up. After I kind of stopped skateboarding for a while, my friend asked me if I wanted to join a band. I never played really anything. I had an acoustic guitar that I'd mess around with. He's like, do you want to play bass? And I was like, I could learn bass maybe. So I started playing bass in this pop punk band. That eventually branched into me learning how to play guitar better, learning how to play other instruments better, starting new bands, breaking other bands up. The last one I was in, I guess we did a lot of touring, played New Jersey, like you said, went down to Atlanta, played a festival there, went over to Chicago, did a lot of touring, had a lot of good times. And I definitely want to keep doing music. It's always been like a love of mine for sure.
I would agree, but I was always, I believe, as you could tell, getting to know me, getting to even talk on the podcast, space issues is a thing for me. Touring was something that I didn't like. I didn't have appeal to it unless I was a fucking rock star. Like if I was like, I have a bus, I'd be like, all right, wherever. I'll go wherever you want to go. But knowing that I'd have to sleep a lot on shoulders and sitting up motions of vans and stuff, like, no, that never had appeal. So like there was some appeal to it of going to new places. Like playing was the best. I would always be the asshole who would be like, I don't want to go there. Never out loud. I'd go, but like, I don't want to go. I'd set up, and then it would start, and it was like, this was great. What a great idea. We should do this all the time. And then you'd be at the Meat Locker, be over, look at your bass drum, look at the piece of shit fucking stairway, and go, I don't want to fucking do this again. Like
it's a lot of work. And touring it's exhausting. I mean, you're in a van.
Gotta be.
4 to 5 hours at a time, driving to another city, playing that show, going to sleep, waking up, driving to another city, playing the show, going to sleep, waking up, driving to another city. And that can be exhausting. Like you said, there's a lot of claustrophobic situations. One time we had a van, and there was, I want to say 5 seats, because we had a lot of gear. It was a smaller van, and somebody had to stay. There was like this probably 2 to 3 foot section above all the gear in the back, kind of like built a set of plywood on top, that you could lay down. So somebody had to lay in that little space
Okay,
throughout
now I
these
see
whole
what you're
rides.
saying. Fuck.
So
That's even worse than sit and bitch.
yeah, it's a little worse. I mean, sometimes you want to stretch your legs and you want to lay down, but it is very claustrophobic. So yeah, if you have any trouble with that, or like being in long car rides, you know, taking 6-hour drives or driving for 6 hours, yeah, it can be very exhausting, but it's very rewarding for sure.
I couldn't imagine. I literally couldn't. Like, I can and I can't. Because I would also want to be the driver, too, because I'm a nervous second passenger.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like a shaky cat in life, dude. Like, you can easily fucking startle me.
Right.
It's weird.
I guess I've had some bad times driving, I guess. One time they let me drive. I don't drive a lot, probably for good reason. One time they let me drive. We were driving to, I think it was, I want to say Richmond, Virginia. We were driving through the night. They put me in charge of driving. It was just me and the passenger. And you always got to have somebody staying up with you. Definitely long drives through the night. Everybody else had fallen asleep, and I was like, hey, man, I'm really tired, you know? It was like really hitting me. I was like, I'm really tired, dude. I don't know if I can do this anymore. And he was like, oh, all right, man. So then we pulled over at a rest stop, and I like turned off the car, and then I laid down, and then I opened my eyes, and it's the morning. Everybody's still asleep. And then they wake up expecting to be in Richmond. But no, we made it 20 minutes down the highway. And then
where you left?
From where we left.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and everybody was super mad. And I did not drive the rest of that tour.
I feel that. So that's a funny time. Just kind of wrap up there. I know it's a hard on the spot though, but like you talked about rewarding times, and you have one that was just like the best. You know, what was the best on tour moment? Almost to simplify the question.
Best on tour moment. We played, like I said, we played this festival in Atlanta, Georgia called Wrecking Ball. Playing that was super cool. I mean, there's a lot of bands that I adored as a kid that played that festival. And I had this one moment. This band American Football played. I had this one moment where I was standing backstage, and I was hearing them play the song "Never Meant," and one of my favorite songs. And I was like, "Man, this is a really cool moment." You know what I mean? Playing music brought me here and let me have this opportunity and be able to see one of my favorite bands play this cool song in front of like thousands of people. It was sweet. Yeah, that's really cool.
I'm a motherfucking liar. Who is your favorite band to play with as well?
My favorite band to play with? Favorite band to play with? It would probably be, the person that recorded our last album, his name was Jake Clark. He had his own project under Jake Clark, and we played with him a lot. He recorded our split that we did with him. We did a lot of touring with him. He actually played drums with us when we went down to Wrecking Ball. So playing with him and like hanging out with him was really cool. He also played in this band Super Heaven, formerly Daylight. And I grew up loving that band. And then eventually we ended up, meeting him, and he recorded us, and we hung out with him, and it was like hanging out with a dude that I looked up to musically. So that was super cool. And meeting people and seeing people and being on the same level of bands I adored felt really cool.
That's fucking awesome, man. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Of course.
I always feel like I want to end this or start this section with, I think it's The King and I, like getting to know you. Because in my head it sounds super jaunty, but it all sounds a little lame. But that was a great time, man. Thanks so much for all that inside this bro section. We are going to close on out of this section, however, and enter into the superhero section, where I think it might be the longest one, man. We got a lot of Jay and Silent Bob stuff to talk about.
Nice.
As this week, our superhero section involves Jay and Silent Bob and their comic book character counterparts, Blunt Man and Chronic, in the movie Jay and Silent Bob Reboot.
Snoogans.
And on that note, we cue the music.
So still a relatively new movie in 2019, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. Rated R comes in at 1 hour and 45 minutes. Stars, of course, Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes. It's got a super long cast list, but I guess if I had to go down to the next main character, it'd be Kevin Smith's kid, Carly Quinn, and their kind of gang. We will go through them as we meet them in the movie, and we kind of bullshit and discuss, but super fun movie. I mean, anybody who's listened to the show before knows. huge Kevin Smith fan and waited for this movie, heard about it on all the podcasts. I was lucky enough that he four-walled distribution, meaning like he'd show up in Wilkes-Barre and be like, hey, come on out, kids, and watch the movie and do a Q&A, all for like $50 or whatever. And then go on to Pittsburgh and then go on to blank and did the road show. But for 2 days, you could see it through Fathom Events, which at movie theaters does like a bunch of fun events. You know, sometimes they'll put fights up on the big screen, or they'll go and do anime and shit like that, like different things that usually you wouldn't find. And this is one of them. For 2 nights, you can either, I think the first night was like get a poster and watch the movie, and the second night was like watch Strike Back into Reboot.
Wow, that's super cool.
Something like that. I think I have the poster though. I went for the poster.
Nice.
Dude, I might even have one for you, buried away deep somewhere, because I had to put a lot of stuff. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But this was your first time seeing it just to get ready for this, man, right?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I feel like I remember it happening. I haven't really been following any movies or anything like that. I always loved Jay and Silent Bob growing up, or the View Askew universe growing up. It's always been one of my favorite movies was Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. And when you mentioned it, I was like, man, I missed it. And I was like, I have to go watch it. And I thought that would be like a perfect topic for this podcast, because I'm not crazy into the superhero game. I've been watching the new Marvel movies and I like them, but I think this would be perfect because this was something I loved growing up.
Definitely. And there's 2 Batman in it. When you think about it, both Ben Affleck and Val Kilmer make an appearance. Spoilers to anybody out there who hadn't seen it, might have wanted to see it, but
True.
2 Batman actors in it, that pretty much makes it a comic book movie.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
I did want to just touch a little bit more. You kind of touched on a little bit about growing up with the View Askew universe, and what was your first movie into it, and just a little peppering throughout.
I was super young when I saw those movies. I was super young when I saw a lot of movies. I probably saw a lot of movies way too young. But I always loved Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back. I think the first one I saw was Dogma, from that universe. But I love that one. Mallrats. Yeah, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was always my favorite. I always loved those characters the most, along with Clerks as well. But yeah.
I think growing up, I didn't like Clerks as much because it's a lot of talking. You know, when eventually she goes on to have sex with the dead guy, I was like, oh, that's fucked up. You know, like, but I didn't find some of the quippiness, laugh out loud funny as I do now. So I was more attracted to Mallrats. I saw pretty early just because of the slapstick, and it's much, much sillier. Right. Dogma I liked because I saw a lot of stuff young, and that was one of them where I do remember thinking of just going like, holy shit, you know, because at the time I was brought up religious and thought about it, you know, was kind of deep in it at the time of going to like after school or Sunday school, kind of like night school, like it's called CYO, but it was cool, if you will, whatever. But it was a conflicting kind of idea where I just remember going like, interesting, okay, and I took note of it. So that one was good. Chasing Amy was kind of like Clerks early on in learning, because I'm talking about I saw these 10 or 11 years old. Right. I was like, it's a lot of talking. There's a lot of sex talking, so I find that interesting. But at the end of the day, rewatchability. But we did eventually kind of come to the same conclusion of Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was my shit, bro.
Yeah, absolutely. As a kid, I mean, that one hit the most. All the jokes in it were super funny, especially being like 8 or 9 years old and hearing all these poop and fart jokes. I loved it. And I'm not going to lie, I still do.
Oh, yeah. I still watch it just as often as I watch this new one, if not twice as much. I was lucky enough to see this on the big screen in a drive-in in 35 millimeter out at the Mahoning in Lehighton.
Wow, that's awesome.
It was pretty fucking cool. I very much love that movie. But now with all that kind of said of how much we like this, let's go into Reboot. In this Reboot, Kevin Smith always told the joke in a different podcast that he hosts that, you know, he's got a new original idea. In this movie, they've got to stop the rebooted movie from being made. And that is pretty much exactly what it is. It's a reboot that makes fun of reboots, remakes, and all that. Like, it has its cake and eats it too. It's a real good time. What did you think about the meta-ness of it?
I love that concept. And of course, Kevin Smith went pretty heavy into kind of shitting on himself the whole movie and shitting on the concept of a reboot at all, or that aspect at all, which I loved. And just like going with the same kind of idea as Strikes Back, where they have to go to Hollywood and they have to stop this movie from getting made. It was super nostalgic, and seeing all these scenes where they're playing the same music that they did, or like having similar scenarios happening, but either with new characters or with old characters. It was all just super nostalgic, and I loved it. Yeah.
Speaking of new and old characters, the way that Smith talks about it is right before he made this. I think it was a year to date before he started principal photography for this movie. He had a massive heart attack on stage doing a show called Silent but Deadly. Had a heart attack. His doctor said that he had some sort of blockage that is colloquially, that's not how you say it, but I think you understand, referred to as the Widowmaker. Okay. Like, that's how many, if you have his blockage, 80 of 20 people die, whatever. Mm-hmm. Or 80%, sorry. Okay. Anyway, it was a really tense situation is what he always built it up. And like, as he's going, he's talking about like, I'm not going to go kicking and screaming. I did a lot of stuff, but if I make it, like, do I really want my last movie to be Yoga Hosers? Which is a joke, but I kind of like that movie, whatever. So he talks about being, and even says it in a meta situation in the movie of having the guiltiest cast. Right. How many people were in this movie, and who was one of your favorite cameos?
Probably one of my favorite cameos. My favorite one from that made an appearance that was in the old Strikes Back. Probably the security guard. I mean, seeing that guy again was super hilarious. Just remembering him in the old movie, I thought he was a really funny character. And then probably my favorite new age kind of cameo that they brought in, Fred Armisen, the character that he plays. He's driving like the quote unquote like Uber that they take to Hollywood, and he's a hilarious character. I love him. I love Portlandia. I thought that was really funny how they brought him in and intertwined him into that story.
And he makes tater tots for all of his guest riders, right?
Hater tots.
Hater tots, that's right, to what do girls like? Tater tots and teen bop. Why don't I just make them together? That is just a really obscure, weird role. And yeah, that is a good addition. The one that we talked about before that, in this movie, I don't know if it was the same in the last one, his name, quote unquote, is Security Dick. But we're talking about the guy, he's played by Diedrich Bader. Okay. One of the best voices to kind of tie it into this show and the superhero section. And to make sure it's even more of one, he's the third Batman. He voiced Batman in Batman the Brave and the Bold. They did this animation show where they kind of played into the 40s and 50s, kind of like weird, campy, we can't show real violence, so we'll just have like somebody who can control you into being a musical. Like the Music Meister show up and you'll sing and dance through an entire episode, but also made it pretty cool.
That's sweet. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
So if you think about his voice and how deep it is down here and stuff like that,
I can hear it now for sure.
Definitely go ahead and look at that. But the other thing that I think of with his character is, of course, if you remember the movie, Jay offers to blow Silent Bob and let this security guy watch as long as he lets him off the hook for sneaking onto the Miramax set. And what he says is just make it fast and sexy. And when you're done, you say, what a lovely tea party. The making of Jay and Silent Bob is titled, what a lovely tea party.
Oh my God. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
It is pretty funny.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that with me. Wow.
You got it. He was so my favorite past cameo to show up might be Loki from Dogma.
Oh yeah. I love that one too. That little clip that they go to him. And like learning his story and what happened after Dogma, that was really cool.
For anybody that doesn't know, he used to be the angel of death. He got cast aside. His friend, quote unquote, Ben Affleck, tries to get him back into heaven. To do so, he's got to become human. When he was human, he felt bad at the end of the movie, pretty much is what I'm trying to jive at. And he dies. And you think because he was human and he didn't go through the arc, you think that he went to hell. In my opinion, when you watch that movie, you do the math of what was set up. Like, I've lived how many decades of thinking like, fuck, Matt Damon Loki is in hell. No, we find out in this movie, no, he doesn't. He gets shipped somewhere else. I don't think it was Wisconsin again, was it?
He said that God dropped him in the Mediterranean Sea. And I forgot, he got picked up by somebody there. But yeah.
He goes on to make a bunch of Bourne references about how he was quote unquote born again, which is then a reference to his Bourne series, like the Bourne Identity and stuff like that.
Right.
Which is again funny, but I like where they took it, to be honest. And I was happy to know, like, oh shit, cool, he's not in hell. Yeah. Which then makes me wonder, is Bartleby in hell?
Yeah.
I mean, his head exploded.
I mean,
God took him out personally.
Yeah. I can only imagine that he is just got blown out of existence.
Yep. Altogether. No afterlife at all. You're just donezo.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Fucking A. And then my new favorite one, I really liked that Chris Hemsworth one, that he played himself in the Chronic Con, which is their version of a Comic Con, excuse me. Yeah. It's a weird one because he's this weird informational hologram that doesn't make much sense, but it fits in with a previous conversation about how Millie and Jihad want to have sex with him. Mm-hmm. And I love those jokes where it's like, where they're talking about like taking his member in their hands, just like, put it in my hand, Odin's son, see if I'm worthy. Like that joke, that's funny. It's like, I'd let him have sex with me until I was Thor. And it's like, so the fact that he shows up later is like, I get it, but also weird hologram fucking drop. You know what I mean? Didn't see it coming. Absolutely
did not see it coming, but I thought it was funny. I wonder if it was just like some favor that Kevin Smith had for him. Possible.
I'm telling you, it's because he almost died. He cashed in every chip he had. He was just like, hey, I somewhere there's a story in a Hollywood Babylon that I'm forgetting, but I think it had something to do with the fact that one time he was on a show, he being Chris Hemsworth, and somebody asked him about knowing something, and basically Chris Hemsworth's response was, well, really, I just listen to Kevin Smith podcasts, and that helps me like sound smart to the fans, or something in and around those lines is what I think is coming to mind. But sometimes I'm not that good. I could be wrong. I could have made that up. I don't know.
True. And and Kevin Smith does mention in the movie that he had a heart attack and that his friends felt guilty, and that's why they were in this movie, which was probably perfect for the reboot because that's exactly what it seemed like. But it's still nice, you know.
That goes into the next talking point that I wanted to talk about. So, like what we're talking about at the end here with the Chronic Con and with Kevin Smith saying himself, the movie revolves around them finding out that there's going to be a reboot because they get sued for their likeness once again, which is going to start a whole separate conversation. Fuck. That courtroom scene is one of the best. We may get Brandon St. Randy back. Maybe not a name, but Justin Long comes back as their lawyer, who may also be the same guy who attended the high school reunion of Zach and Miri. Guilty.
It was cool to see him. They didn't really say that it was him. I guess Kevin Smith doesn't technically own that character, which I get, but it was still cool to see him pretty much. That was his exact character, for sure. It was no doubt about it. It was amazing.
Craig Robinson, who is playing the judge, is also a fun one. And then the bailiff was Joe Manganiello. So to tie that once again as a Batman person, he played Deathstroke. Oh, dude, I showed you that comic book. That's also the first appearance of that guy. Boom, we're tying stuff all together.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right?
Call back.
And just one more. The lady bailiff, the first bailiff who was leading them in, if you remember, that's Jordan Monsanto. That's actually Jay's wife.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool. Wow.
Anyway, that was a long way of getting around them having to get to Hollywood. They meet up in the middle of nowhere after Fred Armisen.
Fred Armisen.
Thank you. Yeah. They're out of movies and they see Justice. Justice, who being from the first one, like I talked about, she must have got out of jail. Now she's a weather person. I'm trying to go, not beat for beat, sorry. They somehow get Millennium and they figure out they all have to go to what this thing is. This is Chronic Con is what they have to head to. Mm-hmm. This being a convention centered around the Jason Biggs / James Vanderbeek movie that was attempted to be stopped in Strikes Back. All because their friend, Shang Yu, wants to see them. They are traveling there to stop the production.
Right.
Kevin Smith is making the Blunt Man and Chronic movie, but he's also making this movie. That's what I'm trying to get to, is at the very end, the meta-ness of that scene and what you just thought of, like the finale of like Silent Bob playing Kevin Smith almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy. And then having, there's a point where Silent Bob pretends to be Kevin Smith because, of course, he looks exactly like him because they are the same person. Yeah, I thought that was super funny. And it's, of course, Kevin Smith roasting himself the whole way. It was great. And even his daughter roasting him a little bit.
Yeah, that was a good part of it. How did you feel about her?
I liked her character. It wasn't until after the movie and I did some Googling stuff that I even knew that was her daughter. I wasn't crazy into following the Kevin Smith saga after I was like a teenager. I got into other stuff. I wasn't that crazy into Kevin Smith. But yeah, I thought her character was really cool. I thought the relationship that was built with Jay, I thought that was pretty cool. There were some heart-tugging moments. That kind of got me a little bit, especially one from Jay, where he kind of realizes that he kind of has been a piece of shit his whole life. And then he kind of says that, and like seeing Jay kind of talk bad about himself, because we talked about this before, like Jay he thinks he's like hot shit. He thinks he's everything. And then seeing him like get brought down to earth. And, it was really cool. And it definitely tugged at my heart a little bit.
Yeah, that's the scene where they're in the van. And then once again, it's one of my favorite. Fred Armisen comes out of nowhere and he jumps on top and he's like, "Tater tots filled with hate, get me arrested for your grass, man." And he's throwing tater tots at them, and eventually Silent Bob catches one.
Yeah,
that is
super cool.
Dude, you're right, man. Now that I think about it, he does have some of the best fucking lines in the entire movie.
That's super cool. There's a point where they get him high, and then he gets caught by the cops, and that's how they leave him, and then he ends up coming back with the hater tots because they ended up writing a review on his like kind of quote unquote Uber app kind of deal. I forget what they called it in there.
Ride Me Now.
Ride Me Now was their kind of Uber representation or whatever. They left a bad review, kind of similar to the comment they made on the Poop Shoot website and Strikes Back, where it's pretty much word for word. It's all you motherfuckers are gonna pay.
You are the ones who are the ass leaders. That's fucking funny.
So they left that review, and then Fred Armisen's character did not like that. He ended up coming back with the hater tots, and then of course Millennium came in and choked him out, and they left. So, yeah.
Which also leads to one more side story of another weird appearance / wow, in a Kevin Smith movie. I didn't expect to see that, of a Klan rally. Yeah. Led by Chris Jericho. Now, they do get literally shit on, and they are made fun of, but I just never thought, before seeing this movie in my day, like, oh yeah, Kevin will do a scene with a bunch of Klansmen. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, definitely wasn't expecting it. I thought it was amazing how much they shit on them. Literally shit on them. But, yeah, I don't know. I thought that scene was pretty funny.
It is the quote-unquote, what's the word? The standard Silent Bob long speech almost.
Oh,
the one that you're the chasing Amy, or the I think not, sir. You were paying us likeness rights, like that whole thing with Banky. Right. It was almost that, where he lifts a speech from something. I don't know what it is, but he's like, "I'm here for Mitch and Murray."
Yeah.
I looked up at the time what it was. I'm not going to look it up now, but he lifts it from something, has that long speech, and that I like. And then pulling by the van that they have a porta potty, they literally whip shit all over them.
Right.
And as they're leaving, Millennium's giving the finger, shouting, "And now who's stupid, you dirty sheep fucker?"
Yeah, exactly.
Which Jay screamed at Sean William Scott as he threw him out of the van. And
exactly.
like you were talking about in terms of echoing and repeating and rebooting. I mean, literally, you know what he said, by taking the same idea and adding youth and diversity to it.
Yeah.
Is what he did. And what a brilliant way to shit on it, but also it was fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. And like loving Strikes Back so much, and then having those scenes happen again, but in different ways and in kind of a different story and with new characters. It was just amazing to watch, and it brought me back a lot.
And finally, one thing that I asked you as we were talking about it, kind of preparing for this, was like, did you stay for the credits? And you had not. So I did want to talk about, the end scene, like you were talking about touching Millie, Harley Quinn moments of like, I love that end scene where during this whole movie, they talk about, I just want to have coffee with my dad and talk about dad stuff. And that's how they end the movie. And he kind of says something to the effect of like, "You ready, kid?" And she goes, "Do it, dad." And like, that's the part where I'm just like, yeah. And then he says the really cool thing of like, find a guy who's always got your back, even if he's at your side, and touching moments. But then it goes into the final scenes that kind of end like Gumball Rally of just like all of them having fun. It's almost like the end of Strikes Back of, you know, the names coming up and the song. Have you ever heard that song? Do you know who MC Chris is?
No.
We can listen to it because it's actually pretty fun. You should probably at least once. He also did in Zack and Miri. He's also famous for Vets. Backpacks, got jets, like Boba, the Fett.
Right, okay.
That's the same guy who also has been commissioned by Kevin. He does the intro to Smodcast, the original podcast put on by Kevin Smith, which is also played in this of like, everybody spark a spliff for that legend Kevin Smith. Ba-ba-butch, ba-ba-butch, ba-ba-but, if you remember. Anyway, really cool. It's one of my favorite songs. It's called Drinking Blunts, and it goes drinking blunts, smoking 40s, drinking blunts. That's what this kid does for fun. Pour some smoke into that cup. And then, you know, there's lots of other words, but it's just mad fun. Yeah. And you literally, in my opinion, you can't listen to it and not bounce. And all these people are having fun, and look at all these names, and like the credits actually end up being some of the best parts of the movie, no?
They do for sure. One of them being... They kind of meet up at the Comic-Con with the kids that they were selling weed to in Strikes Back. They end up coming back and saying the song back to them because apparently now they're big in the weed or the recreational weed game. So they end up saying the song back. $200, little man. Put that shit in my hand because you know weed prices are a little more nowadays.
Yeah, much more than 15.
Yeah, much more than $15. That's for sure. But
maybe I can get you a gram for 18 if you got some coupons, something.
Exactly. But yeah, seeing those characters again and then they're all grown up, it was just so cool. Yeah.
Super good. And then it ends with, in my opinion, the best joke maybe ever. Maybe fucking ever, man. So we were talking about, you know, the Do It Dad line. This is taking place once again in front of the Quick Stop. It's where we started the movie. And Dante, played by the wonderful Brian O'Halloran, who was actually up in Montage. I met him like a little bit ago.
Wow.
Very super nice guy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, signed shit for me, took pictures, and just like afterwards, I think I told you, it's almost similar to the time I met Kevin, where like other time I've met people, they've kind of been like, all right, thanks. And then they go talk to somebody who's with them, like quote unquote, their people. Right. Whereas Brian was just like, so what are you doing tonight? I was just like, oh, nothing, Brian. What are you doing tonight?
Oh, that's super cool.
He was super cool. But anyway, Dante, like always, showing up for work, now assumingly after Clerks 2, so the original Quick Stop burned down. This is the new one that he and Randall now own and work together. There's fucking gum jammed in the locks, just like in the first movie.
Right.
And Jay says, to Millie, for the last 30 years, me and Silent Bob have been coming here and putting gum in the locks. I lost my shit. What do you think, man?
I did too. Such a crazy reveal. Like most of the time, most of those movies that start with, you know, Dante going in, trying those locks and they're not working, you know, or it was just classic that those doors were always closed. I remember you saying something about why they were closed. I forget.
Because when he was making the movie, he was really working there as well. Like, he wasn't, quote unquote, making, like, he was a super duper indie. And he made an agreement with these people of, like, can we make a movie here after hours? So they still had to close and lock up. So the shutters had to come down. Mm-hmm. So in the movie, they say that they're blocked. So this way, when we're inside, we can't see that it's nighttime out. Because then it would ruin the illusion that he's there at 6 a.m, working the morning shift at a morning convenience store kind of shit.
Exactly, yeah. And and then learning that it was just Jay and Silent Bob the whole fucking time.
Yep,
they were the ones putting gum in the locks, fucking with Dante
savages
and Randall
in this town. Fuck yes, dude, I love that. Because then we talked about that was the catalyst that made him have to make a sign, and then like what smells like shoe polish. Right, you know, that running gag throughout the movie. All these things would have been lost without these two guys coming and putting locks in the door before they fucking sell.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was super cool, and like I lost my shit. I kind of missed it the first time when I watched the movie. I kind of just skipped the credits, but you told me watch the credits, so I went back and I watched them, and I was in my car at break, and I was just freaking out. It was so funny to hear that.
Yeah, Kevin is a huge Marvel fan, so I think that was also his little homage of just like having a few mid-credit scenes and shit like that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it was smart. It was good. So overall, you know, usually here I do what I call school grades because I don't know what else to call it. So an A to an F. of how you felt about this, not in terms of a movie, but where it fits in your universe love.
Where it fits in my universe love. I would put it as an A. I loved it. If it was the last one in that universe, I would be fine. I mean, I want Clerks 3, and that's of course going to happen, but if that was the last Jay and Silent Bob movie ever, I would be perfectly fine with that. I thought that was a nice cap to everything. Yeah, I'd give it an A for sure.
Totally have to agree. There was a lot of hype leading up to this. I just remember sitting there and just being like, okay. Like the first time, almost nervous because I was worried I wouldn't like it almost in a sense because he builds it up too. And he's always somebody who, in my opinion, is smart enough to under-promise and over-deliver. You know, because he'll kind of be like, oh, this movie, it's not going to, blah, 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 it might not be. Or, you know, I love it a lot, but I loved Yoga Hosers because a lot of people shat on Yoga Hosers. If you want to watch that, let me know. Batshit weird crazy. Like, it's really weird.
Never seen it, but I would like to, for sure.
But, like, also a little immature. I don't know. It's got a weird, like, I don't know. We'll talk about that another time. I can send you home with the disc if you want.
Hey, I'd be open to it.
The other thing I was thinking of, too, sorry to keep dragging this out, is did you know there was a Clerks cartoon?
I love the Clerks cartoon.
Oh, bro.
Yeah.
I wasn't, there was one or two, what was it today? There was a joke I wanted to make, and I was like, no. Fuck, I'll have to think of it another time. Super good, though. Only like 6 episodes.
Right. No, I love the Clerks cartoon. It was super cool. I used to watch that as a kid. Yeah, with all the characters in it, but a little more extreme because they can take it a little further with the cartoon. But I like that one.
Nice. Well, man, I gotta say thank you. You know, I say it at the end all the time, but it doesn't mean that I don't mean it, like, because I really do. Time is very infinite for all of us. You know, you spent a long day at work, and then you came here for a very long time. You know, you spent a lot of time. Thank you very much for spending this time here with me. I really, really, truly mean it. Thank you very much.
Of course. I was happy to be here. This was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, I honestly truly enjoyed it. I feel like in every section I thought of at least 1 or 2 more things that we could talk about. So maybe coming back for a sequel episode and getting you on a rotation with everybody else. You know, first-time guests usually become rotating guests. So maybe we can keep that going. That'd be fun.
Absolutely.
Thank you again. My name has been Nick James. I've been joined by the wonderful
Andrew.
This has been Buds, Bros, and Superheroes, and we are out of here.
Later, guys.